Good morning. Welcome to Plugged In, a new personality from Hebrews 11, right after this. And welcome back. There's a whole lot of catching up, a little bit of explanation as to where I've been. Some of you might have wondered, had I just stopped doing this? The answer is no. In fact, this morning I was thinking, have I even seen Peter since the first of the year? And we had to say Happy New Year a few moments ago because on the 6th, it was icy. And I took a road that I knew I should not have taken. I knew better. And I paid for it, literally. No damage to a car, but I did have to call a wrecker service. That was when we had our first little bit of ice. So I called Peter and I said, I cannot be here. And then the following week, it was Peter who said, Rodney, I'm not feeling well. And I'm not technology driven to where I could do this on my own. So we are back, and fitting that we would be back on the 20th to kick this off, Martin Luther King Day, Inauguration Day. I would challenge you, whoever you voted for, whoever you're for, we can all do one thing in common, and that's pray. We pray for our country. We pray for the leader, and so we pray. I just challenge you to do that. It is good to be back. We're still in Hebrews, and we're going to open up with a short verse out of Hebrews 11, verse 22, one of those individuals in the Old Testament that a lot of us have grown up hearing about. It's going to appear up on your screen here. Hebrews 11:22. By faith, Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt and gave instructions about his bones. Now, we will actually eventually get to the end of Joseph's story. It's kind of interesting to me that the man whose story weaves from Genesis 37 to chapter 50, and there's so many stories about Joseph, the Hebrew writer only tells us this. In fact, he leaves a lot of things out. For us, what we're going to do is look at Joseph's test. He was put through a lot of tests. Test of endurance, test of patience, test of obedience. When Joseph of the Old Testament is mentioned, for those of us especially who grew up in church, we often immediately go to a young man who wore a coat of many colors. I think Dolly Parton herself made a song of her coat of many colors and referred to the fact that her mom was sewing it while she was telling the story of Joseph. In Joseph's day, everyone wore a robe or a cloak. Robes were used to keep a person warm. That would be fitting for today. They bundled up their belongings for a trip. It was to wrap up babies. Or you could use it as a seat cushion I'm not joking with you. I found this in some history lessons of this. You even used your robe or a cloak as a security for a loan. Most of the robes were knee length. They were short-sleeved. They were very plain. Joseph's robe, in contrast, was ankle length and colorful. It was the kind worn by royalty. It became a symbol of Jacob's favoritism toward his son Joseph. Now that didn't set well with his brothers. Joseph, for what it's worth, he did not seek this gift. At least it doesn't appear to be. He's a teenager. He relished the attention. And of course, this aggravated an already strained relationship between his brothers and his father. In fact, in Genesis 37, verse 4, here's what we read. When his brothers saw that their father loved him, that is Joseph, more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. That's in reference to their dad. They didn't particularly like Joseph either, but they hated their dad, and they couldn't say nice things about him. Joseph had a sense of self-assurance. Maybe he was a bit overconfident. We might say that he was a little arrogant or cocky as a teenager. If he had any weakness in his life, I think it's found here in chapter 37. There's just a youthful pride. But God would humble him in a variety of ways, causing for Joseph to turn his eyes off of himself and onto God. Now, as we go through his story in the next few weeks, we're going to see some ups and downs. And a good lesson from those stories is this: what matters is not so much the events and circumstances, but one's response to them. We will be reminded through Joseph's life that with God's help, any situation can be used for good. It is a joy to be back with you. Happy 2025. Remember to like and share these videos, these shows each week. And I look forward to being with you, barring any issues or sickness or whatever. We will return next week for a Plugged In and another story from Joseph. Have a wonderful week.